while we're talking about size, there's a related point I want to address here about blocking. I've talked about blocking before, and I always put air quotes around it because I think sometimes it gets a little bit misunderstood. The word block has become a little bit too associated with the concept of stretching. You know, we know about blocking wires and blocking mats and pins and all of those things. And you see people stretching things out and pinning them to dry all the time. Those lovely pictures on social media. So the stretching thing is only really required in a fairly limited number of circumstances, in pretty specific circumstances. And it's distinctly not appropriate for hats. Block is actually a general word, just really quickly. What we mean by block is to finish the fabric. What we actually do for most fabrics, for most projects, is all you need to do is you wash it. You wash your hat before you wear it because, well, you want to settle the fabric, you want to even up the stitches, you want to tidy everything up, you want to get any dog hair or cookie crumbs or coffee stains off, any dust, any hand cream you might have applied that can transfer to your yarn. You want to get all of that stuff off. And I've got a separate video that talks about moths and why washing is important for moth prevention, so you can always visit that as well. But with a hat, you do need to wash it before you declare it done to settle the fabric and to make it right and to bring it to its finished shape and size, right? Because fabrics do change when you wash them. And what you're doing when you're knitting is you're knitting to that washed fabric so that it's perfect and beautiful and right, and it fits you right. So you wash it, but you don't want to stretch it. For anything that's worn with negative ease, hats, and socks are the other classic example, you don't want to wash and then stretch. You don't want to stretch when you wash because that could be compromising or affecting the fit. With the hat, we're relying on that negative ease, the stretch in the brim, to make sure the hat stays on. It doesn't blow off in the wind. And if you stretch the hat, you're potentially compromising the fit. Plus, it's also complicated, right? Stretching the hat, because, I mean, do you have a hat form that's exactly the size of your head? You don't need that, and you don't want to. You want the hat to be the right size, that negative ease, when it's been washed. So don't go stretching. Now, if the hat uses stranded colorwork like this one, okay, this has got stranded colorwork patterns, fair ale patterns, and these need special treatment when you wash them. These fabrics are always a little bit lumpy. They're always a little bit uneven when they're finished. And I find that, first of all, I wash it. But if it does have a few bumps and if it does look a little bit lumpy, that's okay. What I will do then is I'm still not going to stretch it, but I will steam it to tidy it up. Because again, the challenge with stretching is that you could overstretch it and therefore compromise the fit. If you're making a colorwork tam, I do see people sometimes using a plate or some other surface to block the body of the hat, block the top of the hat, and that can work really well. But again, don't go stretching the brim because you could be damaging the fit there. So, short answer, when you're finished a hat, you will block it, and by blocking here we mean washing. You'll wash it to bring it to the finished size, but no stretching. It's just not required. A little bit of steam if you want to tidy up your stranded colorwork, but other than that, keep it simple. And you are going to need to wash them. You can't skip this washing step because your hat is going to have to be washed through its life. In my case, because inevitably I drop it in a puddle as I'm getting out of the car. I put my hat on my lap when I'm sitting in the car, and then when I get out of the car, the hat inevitably falls onto the ground. Maybe that's just me. You also need to, and again, back to my previous video about moths, you also need to wash your hats before you put them away at the end of the season. So what we're doing here is we're washing to bring it to its finished shape and size. You are knitting to a washed gauge is another way of putting it. But short answer, summarize out here. If I lost you at the G word, really what you're doing is you're just washing to finish your hats and making the fabric look beautiful. That's all. That's what it's all about.